What is going on, guys? Today we are back with another video. The last probably 5, 6, 7, I don't even know how many videos you guys have watched on the channel, have all been from Minnesota, and they've either been Leech Lake or Winnebagosh. Phenomenal bite up there. Just caught a ton of fish. I've just thought about going right back up there and filming it again because it's so much fun right now and I just love that area. But we're not doing that. Had to come home and work on some stuff in the future. But as I was sitting at home, I just happened to go on to YouTube and read some of the comments. You know, one thing, I don't reply to a lot of comments. I read a lot of the comments, but if I reply to all the comments, a lot of times it just takes a lot of my time. And a lot of times I read, like I said, I read every comment. But and if there's like a lot of the same questions, we'll generally do a video on that. But I was sitting there reading the comments on a YouTube video, and I saw a comment. We have to scroll around here and find it. I thought I saved it, but apparently not. Christopher commented. Christopher, we'll just kind of throw the comment up here, and he comments on the Leech Lake videos. This video fell short of living up to previous Tom Boley videos. There's no mention of depth, how to break down the lake, or detect fish using 360, what presentation, etc. It was just a couple of people catching fish. I just watched a couple of people catching fish. I'm sorry, Christopher. I'm sorry that video did not live up to your standards of YouTube fishing videos. And what he's talking about is the last video I filmed on Leech, where it was me and Shelby just piling on walleyes. And I prefaced that video by saying, we're not gonna go too much into what we're doing because we've already done 5 videos showing what we're doing. But you know, in case you didn't get enough of that, we're gonna walk you through the process really nice and slow here. So maybe Christopher, if he wants to come out and catch some fall walleyes, or maybe anybody else, if they want to come out and catch some shallow water fall walleyes, can do so. So we're gonna go through the process nice and slow and easy, showing the side imaging, showing the GPS, showing the 360, and kind of the baits you want to select to fish this pattern. So that's what we're gonna do. And Minnesota always gets the shallow water fall bite generally earlier than a lot of our Wisconsin lakes. Generally, a lot of these lakes in Wisconsin take these big, huge Minnesota lakes that are real flat, like your Mille Lacs, your Leech, your Winnebagosh. There's always some amount of fish that stays shallow, and because of that, they get this real shallow water push a lot earlier. But a lot of our Wisconsin lakes are just starting to see this transition happen, in my opinion. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go all into this. We're actually kind of on a spot where we should be able to film this right now. So Christopher, we could probably do this all in one take. Now, where are we looking for fish, Christopher? We're looking for fish on a lot of these big, shallow flats. And a lot of times I like shoreline related structure. They just seem to be predominant this time of year as well as in the spring for whatever reason. I think what you have happen is you have a lot of bait move back to shoreline areas. And generally what I mean by a flat is a very flat piece of structure that runs a long way offshore. So we'll throw up a screenshot right here. This is the kind of spot I'm looking for. I want it to come all the way out to the base, and I don't want this spot to be like tucked away in a bay or something like that. I want this to be a main lake spot that comes way off shoreline, progressively, very slow taper to it, into deeper water. And a lot of your natural lakes, the depths you're looking for, Christopher, are going to be like in that 5 to 15 feet of water, 5 to 20 feet. That's generally the depth. You know, if your lake has a basin that's 25 feet deep at the max, you're probably looking 5 or 4 to 12. If you're fishing in a lake where the basin might be 70 feet, you're probably looking 8 to 20 feet more so. So kind of keep these things in mind. And this is a lot of basically exactly the kind of spots that I'm looking for. So we're going to try to capture this kind of as best we can here for Christopher and whoever else wants to pay attention to this one. And we're going to get the camera going on the side imaging here as we kind of come into this spot. And if Christopher was wondering, I will also complement this video with side imaging screenshots of the spot as I kind of work you through it here. So it should be very detailed, and it should hopefully live up to the standards in which you're hoping for. So we're gonna kind of come into it here. Now, right off the bat, we're coming into this flat. We're in 22 feet of water right now. Logs on the bottom, that's what these are. This is a busted up fish crib. Whenever you're fishing shallow water flats, side imaging is king. Turn your Humminbird full screen side imaging. This is how you're gonna find fish ultimately at this time of year. So a bunch of logs here. It's actually part of a busted up crib. We're slowly coming shallower right now. You can see I got water temp 63. This is pretty much what every lake is going to be in this area right now, and pretty much almost everywhere in walleye country. Everywhere is fishing the exact same temperature wise, and that's just because we've had the same temperature for so long. So what we have right here, this is what rock looks like, and this is another busted up crib, and we actually have a little bit of weeds starting to come in on our left side yet. We're not really seeing anything as far as fish go yet, but we're just gonna kind of keep cruising along. And we have right here is a solid weed edge, so we got solid weeds off our left side. This is the deep side of the boat. There's no weeds over here at this point in time, so we're gonna kind of keep cruising through. You can see we're in 12 feet of water right now, 13 feet. And a lot of times their first pass when you're looking for fish on a new spot is to do this on the outside weed edge. So I'm just kind of bumping myself out so I stay on this outside edge, and I'm just going to kind of keep cruising through it. So here's a little void pocket of weeds. You can see we kind of lost the weeds here, little weeds coming out here, not much going on over here yet. We're just going to kind of keep coming through it. And this is not pre-programmed, prefabricated. We're just driving down a spot, hoping to show Christopher everything he needs to know about breaking down shallow flats for walleyes at this time of year. So here you can see we got a real thick patch of weeds that came way out again. And you know it's really thick because it's got a lot of this black shadow in it. That's tall pockets of thick weeds where the graph cannot read through. Kind of imagine it like shining a flashlight at your hand and the shadow of your hand showing up on the wall. Out to the right side, we got some rock here coming into the screen. No fish yet though. We'll see what we see on this spot, if we're gonna see fish. All right, we're actually starting to see a few more pockets of weeds here. Still not just exactly what we're looking for. All right, so here's a few fish, and I'll go ahead and take a screenshot so you guys can see it here. Now this is on the outside weed edge. And you can see these fish are piled up right here. They're close to the boat, so I'm not getting a real hardcore shadow off those fish. But that's exactly what we're looking for as far as breaking down a shallow flat looking for fish. And we'll just kind of keep cruising around here, keep looking, keep looking, keep looking. And that's pretty cool. You know, in these northern Wisconsin lakes, we're not looking for pods of 90 fish. You know, these are highly pressured lakes that don't have a ton of walleyes in it, so we're not looking for that many fish. Here's another classic situation. Here's more fish, and I'll go ahead and take a screenshot for you. Now, those fish are on kind of a pocket void inside outside turn in the weed bed. You can see we kind of had this real thick pot of weeds right here that real far out, then the walleyes are tucked right into this little corner. People have this huge misconception that when they're fishing walleyes in the weeds, they're fishing for walleyes in the weeds, like these weeds are really thick and the walleyes are somehow in there. 99% of the time that is not true, Christopher, if you were wondering. Most of the time those fish are on an outside edge or an inside edge or a void pocket in those weeds. There might be fish scattered in the weeds, but for the most part, when you see a nice pot of fish, they're going to be on an edge. So I'll kind of loop us back through here, and we'll try to hit these fish from maybe a little bit different direction. And you can see right here we got some more weeds on the inside of this spot. We'll kind of keep cruising through it, keep cruising through it. And this is just the process you go through. Now on a lake like Leech or Winnebagosh, you're driving around way bigger spots. Or Mille Lacs, you're covering a lot more water when you're doing this. These smaller couple thousand acre lakes, northern Wisconsin, northern Minnesota, you don't need to drive that far because the spots just are not physically that big. Now what you can see here is another pot of fish on another outside weed edge. So we'll go ahead and take a screenshot. Now, hypothetically, let's say you want to fish those fish. Take your scroller on your Humminbird, scroll over to those fish. Hit mark. Now you have a waypoint that pops up on your GPS. So you can take your boat, go over to it, and begin fishing those fish. And that's basically, I mean, the same process you're going to go through every single time you do this. Maybe a lot of times you might be doing this with a trolling motor where you see those fish, they're perpendicular to you, you hit spot lock and your boat swings and those fish are right there. But you know, it's just as easy to drop that waypoint, keep looking around, and then go back to those fish a lot of times. So we'll kind of keep cruising around here. See what else we can see. Hopefully the camera's picking up everything all right so Christopher can see it and be fully satisfied with this content. But here, this is kind of, and a lot of times the more you do this, the more you get used to realizing like where fish should be. like right here, and right as I said that, we're actually seeing fish right there, which is super cool, and it's actually a really good pot of fish. So I'll take a screenshot for you guys. Now what this is fish, but there must be a little bit of mesh weeds down there because they're not showing up crisp clean like on sand. This is a pocket of fish that must be sitting over just a little bit of fringe weed between two thicker pockets of weeds, as you can see right there. So that's another scenario. Scroll over to it on the Humminbird, hit waypoint. Now, since we started this, it looks like we've covered about 300 feet of water. So now what I'm doing is I'm just gonna go shallow. We're just gonna see if there's anything up really shallow. And I'll take a screenshot right here. What I have right here is rock. Now, Christopher, you might be saying to yourself, how do I know the difference between rock and fish? Well, they do look different, but it will take you time to kind of make those guesses or decisions, I guess. It just kind of takes time in the boat. And that is a strip of rock. And anytime you have two structural elements coming together, normally a good thing. So right now we're up here in 8 feet, and you can kind of see, you can kind of tell I'm on the inside edge, because this is my left side's going shallow, my right side's going deep, and I got no weeds off the left side of my boat, and I still have weeds off the right side. So I have found the inside weed edge, and generally your inside edge or your outside edge, one of those two are going to hold fish, or sometimes, I guess in this situation, both. You guys see this coming through right here? This is another pot of walleye, so I'm going to go ahead and take a screenshot right there. Now those fish are real close to me, so what we could do right now is do the same thing we just did. Go scroll over to it, hit mark, waypoint. Now if you're running one graph, you're just going to have that waypoint on this graph. I have my Hummingbird's link, so it's going to pop up right on my GPS graph, so I know right where those fish are. So now basically, you know, we could keep cruising around this spot, but we've been driving around for, how long has this been on? How long has our GoPro been on? 10 minutes? It says 13. I don't think that's quite right. I think I started it early, but we've been driving around for, let's say, 10 minutes. We got 3 waypoints down, maybe 4 waypoints down, I don't remember, really on this spot, showing where these fish are and what kind of structure they're relating to. If you were to do this with sonar, Christopher, it'd take you hours to do what we just did. So turn your Humminbird full screen side imaging. That's how you break down these big flats. Now, I'm not satisfied with that amount of content, neither is Christopher. So what we should do is we should go to one more spot and do the same thing, just to kind of prove the effectiveness of this. Now, after that, we might get into the 360 and kind of show you how I complement that once I start fishing. So let's go to another spot and do the exercise again here, and hopefully we'll find some more something. So you can tell we're on this outside edge because you can see the weeds right here, and you're not seeing weeds off the left, and obviously the left is my deep side right here. So we're just gonna kind of keep coming down it, see what we see. And look at this, right on cue, Christopher. I mean, this video is going so well for me and for you right now. So what we have right here is, like I said, this outside edge, and here's a point in the weeds, here's a cup in the weeds, inside pocket, and we could probably all see those fish right in that pocket. So I'll go ahead and take a screenshot for you. And look how beautiful that pocket of fish is sitting right there, just waiting for us on that inside weed, or that outside weed edge right there. So we'll just kind of keep cruising down it, and like I said, scroll over to it, drop a waypoint, make note of that, where that is. You might see a spot where you're seeing stuff like this, and just right on cue, we got another one here for you. This video is just going so well, it's incredible. Look at this. So we'll take another screenshot. Now these ones are close to the boat, so you're not seeing them quite as well as you previously were. But I'll throw a nice circle around there so Christopher can see them. You can see we're getting into really thick stuff right here. Got this weed edge, so whenever I see that come towards my boat like that, I just bump my boat out, like you can see I did here just in the last little ways. Now this would just be like a classic spot where you'd see walleyes on that clean edge. Look how clean that edge is. That's like, you almost get used to like expecting the fish to be there when you get used to seeing you know, kind of where the sweet spots are a lot of times. And these shallow fish will move a lot, so there might not be fish right here today, but you might come back 2 days from now and there might be fish there, or vice versa, or whatever. You know, there's just constantly fish in these shallow flats. You could think of this, how flat these spots are. These fish in these areas constantly are kind of moving around in and out of these weed edges, shallower to a little bit deeper. Fish in shallow water are generally very affected by weather, where fish in deeper water are generally not quite as much. We'll kind of keep cruising through here. So what you can see right now is we've lost all structure. We're basically just looking at nothing right now. Sand. So In a big lake like Leech, where you have a lot of these sand or light gravel flats, these areas might hold fish. So what you might be doing is just going down these areas. And generally when you're on spots like this, you'll see fish a little bit more spread out because there's no sweet spot. So it might be a pot of 3 here, a pot of 4 here, 1 fish here, 1 fish here. And that was a little bit more common to what I was doing on Leech, where they were fishing, basically just fishing sand flats with a little bit of weed, but for the most part just big sand flats on the north end of the lake. And that was basically what we were doing, and those fish were spread out. So that's why I was using 360 to almost just sharpshoot snipe those fish off the graph as we moved through them. All right, so now that we found the fish with side imaging, how do we pick them apart with 360? So I tried to get the camera to record 360 so we could just video it, but for whatever reason it just doesn't pick it up well. And so I'll just take the screenshots for you, Christopher, and hopefully that will satisfy you. So I know where these waypoints are, and I know roughly where these fish still are on this flat. So I'm just going to get the trolling motor going, and we're just going to start looking together here. And I'm just going to start driving towards these waypoints, and we should see something here at some point. And I don't like to run the big motor if I don't have to over top or around a lot of these shallow fish. I'd much rather do it with the trolling motor, a lot more stealthy, less likely to bust these fish. And I'm in a much better situation to just make a lot of these short range pitches once I start seeing what I want to see. So I got my side imaging on and my 360 on, and we're just kind of looking right now. And in a second here, we should be kind of reaching the desired zone. And all right, so they're not quite on the same waypoints, but like I said, these shallow water fish move around a little bit. You can see them right here. Now, you got a couple of choices when you see something like this. If it's that many fish, you can just spot lock, right? And then just start making those pitches right isolated to those fish and fishing for them, right? If it's a smaller pot of fish, I won't even spot lock most of the time. I'll just, if I have me and Shelby in the boat like it was that day, we'll just both throw those baits right in those fish. And I'll be the one kind of calling the shots. So I'll just tell who's ever with me, mirror my cast. So if I cast right, you know, if I'm pitching out and throwing it right there, Shelby will land it right next to me, or, you know, however it's going to work. But generally that's the idea, right? Now, if it's a bunch of fish, like I said, spot lock, and you can just watch those fish on 360. Maybe you catch 2 fish and all of a sudden you look back at the 360 and there's no fish there. Well, there's no need to keep making that cast over and over if there's no fish there, right? So you just kind of keep moving on. And the biggest thing with this whole thing is dialing in on exactly where those fish are and how far away from you they are. That is absolutely key to this. And in general rule, we're in what, 12 feet of water right now. So, you know, if your screen's set at, if you think those fish are 40 feet away on the side imaging, well, you got to take 12 feet off because that's how deep of water you're in. So then you're only looking at, what would that be, 28 feet, I think. And so then you're only casting, you know, 8 feet longer than a boat is. So then you're just pitching it right out there. So it's not these great big long pitches. You know, a lot of times I think people have their side imaging set at 60, 70 feet. They see a pot 50 feet off the left and they do a cast that looks like this right here, where they're trying to go 150 yards with the cast. Because in their mind, that's how it looks. But it's always closer than you think. So you don't have to cast real far. Now, the other thing with the way we were fishing in that video, did I really catch a perch? No, I just got a weed. So the other thing we were doing with that video is, you know, when we were making these short casts out, and some days fish were super active and you could jig normal. Other days they were a lot slower moving. So instead of doing this typical jig stroke where, you know, you're moving your jig really far towards you, I was almost just kind of working it like on a slack line and doing a lot less like reeling when I was fishing, and almost just more kind of twitching that minnow and kind of get it hopping off the bottom a little bit and keeping that bait right in those fish. You know, you're right around a walleye, so it's just a matter of getting in a bite. And some days, you know, if we had clouds and overcast, you'd pop that jig up once, boom, you get the big bite and fish on. Other days you'd sit here and just kind of twitch it around that area, and eventually they just kind of pick it up and run away with it. So, you know, the whole thing with this is obviously, number one, getting in an area, finding those fish, generally with the big motor when you're kind of doing that scouting stage, and your full screen side imaging. Once you find area that has fish, drop the trolling motor down, turn the motor off, get your 360 going, and go along and just make, you know, kind of sharpshooted casts at these pods of fish. We actually got a few more on the screen right here. And this is exactly what I'm looking at, you know, every time I'm doing these videos where I'm picking apart fish in shallow water. So hopefully, Christopher, this was a good walkthrough of kind of exactly how the last 5 or 6 videos we've done on shallow water have laid out. And I do not want to bore you with any kind of fish catches. So I'll turn the cameras off and then I'll go catch a bunch of fish, and then I'll go home and edit this and post it to YouTube. But I appreciate you guys watching. All jokes aside, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was kind of beneficial to show you guys how I'm breaking down a lot of the shallow water, because shallow water jig season is here pretty much everywhere in the Midwest for the most part, and we're going to be doing a ton of it the rest of the fall. So thanks for watching, Christopher. Hopefully this satisfied everything you wanted and more possibly out of a video, and thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.